I'm majoring in architect here at Hudson Valley Community College. The conversation will be led by Ainsley Thomas, the college chief diversity officer. Time will be allotted for questions from the audience. Following the program, please join us for the light refreshments in the lobby. This is also an opportunity to purchase autographed books. I have the great honor of introducing our speaker, Bobby Seale, this evening. So Bobby Seale is an African-American political activist and co-founder and national chairman of the Black Panther Party. Born in 1936, Bobby Seale is one of a generation of young African-Americans, radicals who broke away from the usual nonviolent civil rights movement to preach and doctrine of militant black empowerment. In 1962, Seale met Huey Newton at a rally protesting the Kennedy administration blockade of Cuba. The pair quickly became friends. At the year marked the starting of the Seale political radicalism, which was dependent when Seale attended a speech given by Malcolm X. By 1966, Seale and Newton were ready to organize their beliefs, and they formed the Black Panther Party, later renamed the Black Panther Party. By 1968, Seale decided that a public account of information in the history of the Panthers was needed, so he wrote and seized that time. The story of the Black Panther Party and Huey P. Newton, published in 1970. The same year, Seale was arrested while protesting at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago and sentenced for 4 years in a prison for contempt of court. After his release from the prison, Bobby Seale renounced violence as a means to the end, and began the task of reorganizing the Panthers, which had fallen into disarray in his absence. In 1970, as the Black Panthers faded from the public view, Seale took on a quieter role working toward improving social services in black neighborhoods and other causes. In 2002, moved to Oakland to work with young political activists and spark social change.
Chairman Seale.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It is an honor to actually have you here before us. Council District, welcome to you. Now, do you have something to say to the audience?
Well, I never broke away from the nonviolent program in the sense of saying nonviolence was wrong. I related to it. In fact, when we did our first rally, February 1968, there, and Stokely Carmichael, Rap Brown, and others merged with my Black Panther Party organization at the Oakland Auditorium, where we packed that Oakland Auditorium with over 5,000 people. Immediately after that, Marlon Brando, the movie actor, came up to see me because he was doing a movie called Burn, and he wanted to talk to us as black revolutionaries in America. And I became very good friends with him, explaining our program. And then at the end of that month, February, Dr. Reverend Ralph Abernathy called me. Dr. Reverend Ralph Abernathy worked with Dr. Martin Luther King, Southern Christian Leadership Conference he did. And he called me and says that Dr. King wants to know, would you please work with him and because he's going to organize a Poor People's March for to protest for our greater economic rights. And I said, yes, definitely. I will work with Dr. King whatever he wants. So what you have to understand is way before that, in 62, late 62, Dr. King came to Oakland, California to speak. Now in '62, I didn't have no Black Panther Party. I didn't know. And he came there to speak at the Oakland Auditorium one Saturday. I said, Dr. King, if the Red Brother's gonna speak, I gotta go hear this brother. Well, you know, I'm working on the gym. My job every night, I worked on the Gemini missile program. You probably say, what's that got to do with anything? Well, it's got to do with everything. I have one of the top jobs in the engineering department, non-destruct testing for all engine frames with Gemini missile program, all 3 stages, etc. This is all based on my background. 4 years United States Air Force, structural repair, all this kind of stuff for aircraft. But my point is, at the same time, I was going to Merritt College. So I had the night shift and I ran the inspection department for the Gemini missile program parts. So I ran that, but my point is, King came to speak. And I went to hear him for the first time in Oakland, California. He was talking about our economic rights as interconnected with our civil rights. And at one point in his speech he got there, he says, right here in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area, Langendorf Bread Company and Kilpatrick's Bread Company will not hire any people of color. And he says, and all across America, Wonder Bread Company will not hire any people of color. I say we're going to have to boycott them. He said we want to boycott them so consistently and so profoundly, we want to make Wonder Bread wonder where the money went.
Let me ask you another question, all right? That's a great story. You told me that when you were 15 years old, you met your grandmother, who was your great-grandmother. 13, sorry. 13 years old, you met your great-grandmother, who was 103 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And that had a profound impact on you. In what way?
Well, we would always go down. My family got moved to Oakland, California from Texas, East Texas. East Texas is Jasper, Texas, north of Beaumont, 90 miles, what have you, 30 miles from the Louisiana border. My people, that's on my father's side, was great-grandma Winnie. Now, the Seale family, S-E-A-L-E, my name, Seale, on the slave plantation in eastern Texas there. They were somewhat progressive, supposedly, but let me say this. When Emancipation Proclamation came Juneteenth, my great-grandma, Grandma Winnie Seale, she went to work for the Seale family in the big house, along with a lot of other workers, black workers, etc. And she wound up with another man who got hired some months later, and they got interested, so they decided to get married in the Seale family. But now they're free, you know, they get paid for their work, etc. And boom, they got married, and what their last name was what? Seale. I mean, that's was my great-grandma Winnie. When I was 13, we had made another trip, or 5 trips, from 1946, 47, 48, 49, 50, back every August of every year to Texas, and we would stay there. Boom, but most of the time I would be with the Traylor family where my mother was from, because they had a big plantation. I mean, Grandma Julie had 16 children, 8 boys and 8 girls. And the father, my grandfather, he, and my mother's side, he's half Irish. He's got blue eyes and all that other kind of stuff. So he's a mix, what have you, but He had married Grandma Julie, etc. But this guy was smart. He bought land. And as all those kids, 8 boys and 8 girls, the boys received 65 and 75 acres of land, all 8 of them. The girls received 12 acres. That's like a dowry, because they're going to get married to somebody and they're going to take that with them, that they belong there. My mother, Thelma, with her twin sister, Zelma, my mother married George Seale. From the Seale family, they were on the other side of Jasper County, 20 miles away. But my point is, and her twin sister with a cousin from Uncle Ed, my Uncle Ed on my father's side, he was there. They were carpenters, builders. And the reason they got so many jobs is because they was connected with the Seale family, who were also the bankers when people wanted building operations going, etc. So this was the luck of being out of slavery and a whole generation, etc. And that's where my background's from. And I remember ladies like Nation of Islam guy, you need to get rid of that slave now. I said, I'm keeping my name. My people were builders, they built houses. I mean, they had, in the 30s, they had contracts that the Seale family gave half of the building for 500 houses for shale mining that was being developed in Weirgate, Texas. It's not far from Jasper. And the Seale family was the bankers to get these houses built, for the big companies. And they wanted 500 houses built because it's going to pull all these people in for this shale mining oil business. And so my grandfather with his kids and Ed Seale, his brother with his kids, he had about 6 kids. My grandfather had 6 kids also. And they were grown now in the 30s. And we got half of the job, my family, to build the rest of those houses. So this is the process. And I'm just saying, that's the background. I wound up getting raised a carpenter and a builder, all raised carpenter. And my Aunt Ann on my father's side, she was the only girl of the 5, with the 5 boys. She was a carpenter too. I mean, later in life, her son, Johnny Kirkwood, her father, when he was dead, and I'm visiting her in Los Angeles. I lived up in Berkeley, Oakland, California every summer, me and my sister. And she ran a big rooming house. And a few of the people in the rooming house was relatives, which they had to have jobs and pay their rent, etc., etc. Johnny, her son, who was 10, 11 years older than me, I'm a 11, 12-year-old kid coming down to spend half of the summer with them. He was a jazz drummer. And he taught me the whole jazz drumming downbeat, upbeat, what have you, etc., cut time, And I'm being taught by my inquisitors about him being a jazz drummer. I mean, this rhythmatic concept. I am a jazz drummer now, and I evolved to do a little bit of that before the Black Panther Party started. Jazz drummer, I'm an architect. I became architect at age 16. At age 16, see, my father and his work partner, he was a white guy, I think he was a Jewish guy, but I don't know the details of that, but they were, my father built our first house in Port Arthur, Texas. He finished the house. I'm 6.5, turning 7 years old. And when we were painting the house, he gave me a brush and showed me how to dip paint and paint down there. And he'd be on the ladder painting up there. And when he said, have that piece of wood over there. Oh, no, not that piece there. It got too many knots in it. Boom, boom, boom. And I dragged a little piece of wood over there to him. And then later on I said, what's a knot, Daddy? And he said, you see right here how the wood's cut? Right there is where a branch was coming out. Then they cut it, and that's a knot. It makes the wood weaker. So we
Gotcha.
see, so I'm being raised a carpenter from Jump Street. This man built us a house. I'm a kid. I'm hard. At 7 years of age when he finished this house. And then 9 or 10 months later, the government is drafting him, trying to draft him in the army. But they wouldn't take him because his left leg was 1/2 inch shorter than his right leg. But they snatched him up because he was a master carpenter. And so him and another white fella were matched together. And if you ever been in the military, so you can easily get matched to work with somebody because the work comes out better. My point is though, and they suddenly got transferred from Texas, at Randolph Field, from Texas to California.
So I'm gonna stop you there.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of
Well, I mean,
stories.
this is a movie. I want to make a film, not just a film. I want to make a series on my life story. I
It
was
is gonna be a serious now.
and I got to counter all the negative lies that's been propagated.
That's right.
We're gonna get- It's 2023, and the theme for Black History Month is Black Resistance. What does that mean to you?
Resistance. And the Declaration of Independence says, when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursues and invariably evinces a design to reduce a people under absolute despotism, then it is the right of the people to alter or change that government and provide new guards for their future security and happiness. When I wrote the 10-point platform in the program, you know, Huey just threw in 3 points. No, he did. He mentioned 3 points. I'm trying to show his contribution. And that was because he was in night law school, in a private law school. He was not in a college or university law school. He was in a private law school. Because he couldn't handle that other stuff. But anyway, he dealt with one immediately in the police brutality. He wanted all black people would have a right to jury trials, etc. And one other point, and people in prison. But the other points, we want full employment for our people. That's me. Martin Luther King. We talking about employing black folks in economics. Our economics is interconnected with our civil rights. Our civil rights is our economic rights. I'm with King on that. And I had problems even with Eldridge Cleaver trying to denounce Martin Luther King. I said, you better not put Martin Luther King's picture in here with has no bootleg, etc. I said, Martin, Chairman, that's nonviolence. I say he's got a goddamn constitutional right to do nonviolent protest. And to sit up here and criticize him for that, I'd kiss my ass. Resistance is to resist what we then back in those days called the pig power struggle. Now, the reason he started calling them pigs because in history, the Germans hated to be called swine. Pig, right? And so, and Emory Douglas was sitting around, we were talking, etc. Next thing you know, Emory Douglaston drew a four-legged pig with a police hat on and his utility belt with a pistol, etc. And he wrote under that, support your local police. So, he put that as one of the first or second issues of the Black Panther Party newspaper, that I created that newspaper. I do. I mean, yeah, we had people write that book, he started everything. He started everything. He's 7 years younger than me. He didn't even have understanding about what was up. He was hanging around me because me and Bertram Morrell organized the first black student organization at Merritt College. At the same time, that was getting our first African-American professor at that college at the time. So I started the party. I'm the one that signed the thing to open the office and inspect the thing. I did the layout for the Black Panther Party newspaper. So I'm just trying to get this history straight about what our resistance was. And what was the resistance was, we are resisting the oppression, the exploitation, etc. We want to provide new guards for our future security and happiness. Meaning what? He had signed the bill for voting rights. This is 2000, it's 2 years before I started the Black Panther Party. I started the Black Panther Party in October 1966. And boom, here I am. I done quit my job after 4 years on the Gemini Missile program. I wanted to work in the grassroots community. I set up a program in North Richmond, California, out there in that African-American community. And me, 3 white students and 3 black students, we were all working for canvassing interconnected with the War on Poverty program. And we would meet to assess our canvassing, but we got to discussing together about how do we do something that's real economic and really good for the community, etc. And I fell back on it and I said, hey, Martin Luther King, we used to put up a program. I said, it's one thing to sit up here, you get a lot of intellectuals, the basic socioeconomic structure and the adverse conditions. The adverse conditions that you're subjected to, and consider particular sociological and psychological factors against the backdrop in the history of slavery. And that was an oppressive cause. Now I know what they're saying, but then I got a young brother in my youth jobs program. I had 100 youth in the youth jobs program, 25 of them female. I got a little brother, he said, brother, Bobby, what they talking about? You know? But you know, my point is, I said, hey, I understand what you're talking about, but you gotta break that stuff down. These are youth, 16-year-old, et cetera, boom, boom, boom. And we try to educate them, and this is the War on Poverty program, whatever, et cetera. I'm the community liaison, et cetera, boom, boom. My point though, you see, the resistance is me quitting my job and setting up a youth jobs program. We call it a tutorial program in North Richmond, California. I pay these kids, minimum wage was $125 an hour. In the summer, they work for 36 hours a week. In the winter, they work for 20 hours a week during school. And we set that as the first program. It's one thing to sit up and talk and so-called armchair revolutionaries and boom, boom, boom. But it's another thing to sort of go out here and do something.
Right.
Amazing to me about the Black Panther Party is that you had youth from like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old that were starting chapters across the country.
You know why they started on them chapters? They murdered Martin Luther King. My organization spread like wildfire after Martin Luther King was killed. That's why, in a matter of 7, 8 months, right on up to Nixon getting elected, I had organized 5,000 brothers and sisters into the Black Panther Party in 49 chapters and branches. That is, you have a standing office in that community or city, in that wherever you guys was, etc. All across the United States of America. This is what the powers. Now, our Black Panther Party newspaper, it started out on what? 16-page tabloid. You know, we put the 10-point program in there, boom, 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 and get writers. And I get writers. The very, very good first writer we had was big man Elbert Howard, ex-military United States Air Force, in college, and he was a writer. His brother was a righteous writer. Huey Newton couldn't write nothing. No, in fact, I'm trying to tell you, you know how Huey got his degree? He got sisters, because he was a pretty boy, you know what I'm saying? And he hated that. He hated the fact that he was a pretty boy. He had a real complex about that. But my point is, he would hit on these sisters. Melvin Newton, his brother, which is as old as I am, he's 7 years older than Huey, I'm 7 years older than Huey, told me, he said, Bobby, the problem with Huey, he says, Huey had F's and D's all through high school. And, you know, he getting bad problems with my other brother who comes out from Los Angeles. And he came to me and said the counselors told him he'd never be college material. And he says, and I told him he got to get into American college and learn to buckle down, and learn to write, what have you, etc. But prior to that, Huey had been shortchanging, doing little criminal acts and stuff we found out about. He said, you know, I found this out from Melvin, he knew his brother, you know. He says, but then that's why you met him, you know, after he'd been in college for over 2 years. He says, but boom, he's really had a problem. But then I met Huey, boom. You know, my core course is engineering design, math, and anthropology. I couldn't take my 9 credit hours because I got a full-time job at the Gemini Missile Program, 4 p.m. to 12 midnight. I'm doing electromagnetic field black light non-destruct testing for all engine frames of the Gemini Missile Program, all 3 stages of exhaust housing. I work in the engineering department. This is high-tech shit. So when you start talking about doing something, I have to organize and start doing the real thing. And I'm not going to sit up here and be some cheap armchair revolutionary. And I'm not saying the armchair revolutionaries don't have some degree of sincerity about trying to change things. It's just that I'm just not going to sit around and do it. I'm going to organize the people.
And one of the things I noticed is that the young folks you had in your organization, they were very bright, very well informed.
Most of them was sisters.
Yes. That's where I'm going with it, because the majority of the women that were out there organizing were women. How did you do that? Why?
It just happened. I mean, you got some brothers, they think they were tough. We had guns and stuff. We didn't have no guns just for show shit. That's crap. I told you, I said, nah, we're going to go patrol these police. I says, you in law school, you've been there a year. I says, I want you to research the California laws that shows that we have a right to stand and observe the police. So I don't want to sit around here trying to organize something. I want to make an impact about a position. So number 7 said we wanted to meet an end to police brutality and murder of black people in our black community, blah, 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 blah. That's what we did. So I said, we're gonna go. I said, this is the way we're gonna do it. I'm not gonna sit around trying to make speeches for 3, 4, 5 years, you know, like Rep Brown. And at the time, I'm not working for the other person. I'm working for the city government of Oakland, California on the wire program. I'm a community liaison. I'm making 4 times the goddamn minimum wage, okay? So this is not a blue-button job. I mean, I'm a carpenter, I'm a builder, I'm an architect. Not only did I run the youth jobs program, all the people's places and locations where poor people lived in the community, in the target area where I was at, I had to make an assessment of the living conditions of the building in the house, etc., so that we could get to the landlords and see what we could do to make sure they have better places to live. So I was suggesting to them. So I'm the one that did that, whether the porch and back, places need painting, etc., and so on, so on, so on, so, boom. And then I would have to report to the board in my target area, all right? And old man Brown, them kids just need to be happy they got a job. Painting ain't no job. I said, yes it is. Painting ain't no skill. You just go put some paint on the wall. This old man, he's on the board with a cane. I liked him, but he didn't have. I said, no, sir. I said, sir, you see that wall over there? I said, you measure that wall and you can get the square feet there. Multiply it by 2 to settle the wall over here. And do the same thing to that wall. I said, get the square feet of the floor to know how many square feet we have here. And since we know that a gallon of paint covers 300 square feet, up to 400 square feet per gallon, we divide that, we know exactly how many gallons of paint we need to paint the goddamn room. That's right. So my point is, and so Mr. Lowe, he was always on the side. He was the one who wanted to hire me in the first place. My point is, working and doing things to change the situation preceded the Black Panther Party. Right. See, the Black Panther Party wasn't even done. And then my personal research through all the time that I am working the juvenile admission program, I'm going to college in the day and working at night, and I'm researching my African American history. So I collect, etc., get books, etc., boom, 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 works, digest W.B. Du Bois's Black Reconstruction, Dr. Herbert Apthacker's documentation of 250 slave revolts from 1800 to 1859. He documented, and what he called it a revolt involved 10 or more slaves. So I'm shocked. Wait a minute, we didn't sit on our ass. This was resistance in slavery. I mean, boom. I mean, and then I run. Marvel J. Herskovitz. They did a book called "Myth of the Negro Past." They're white people, etc. But regardless, I read the stuff they did, and they made reference to Dr. Renzo Dow Turner, African brother, who was a scholar like W.B. Du Bois. And he did all that field research by going to Africa. You know, he got grants. He was one of those scholars in one of those liberal colleges, etc., and went to document, and all the English-speaking countries that had been colonized by the English, etc. You see what I mean? And came back and wrote a work about surviving Africanism in the black language in the United States of America. Why do we drop the TH? Back then, more so then, but nowadays it's different. Black folks dropped the T-H-E-R-A-R or roll R sound. Not everybody. The people who got scholarly education, etc., boom, boom, boom. But the grassroots brothers and sisters who haven't, they dropped the TH sound, which is what Dr. Lee said. There were no T-H-E-R-A-R rolling R sounds in the West African languages and the Bantu languages. There were no T-H-E-R. Hey, bro, let me have that, let's see some of that wine over there. Hey, brother. That's, you see what I mean? The TH sign is not, you know, that was it, and I said, wait a minute. I read that, so I went to University of California, I'm trying to find this work, Dr. Lorenzo Doctor, the Surviving Africanism, and there it was, and I said, hey, give me that. He said, well, you're not matriculated here, you said? I said, no. He said, it's gonna cost you $45. I don't care, give me that book. I had a good job. I'm trying to tell you. So I got the book, I said, wow, that's interesting, you know. So it goes back. Jimmy, get in this house, shut that door, and clean up off this floor. Now, in English, maybe in the white community, Jimmy Lee shut the door. You know, just mess off this floor. But the significance of identifying that gives you a better understanding away from so-called racist ideas of black people being inferior. We were not inferior. We were just a people who evolved as, and so the eugenics boys in the late 1800s in England, you know, is trying to say that they're the superior of all the races, man, the women. That's what they were trying to say.
Well, let's stop you right there.
Yeah.
I want to go back to like some of the, how were you able to educate the masses though throughout the country who started these chapters? Everyone was on the same page. That's tough.
They murdered Dr. King. With murdering Dr. King, riots erupted all across the United States of America, and the riots went on for a couple of months, off and on. This is really what happened. Now, simultaneously, this is 1968, Martin Luther King is murdered. I was friends with Marlon Brando by then, and Marlon Brando called me. Am I going to go to Martin Luther King's funeral? Yes. I said, I got a whole lot of people going down here, etc. He said, well, whatever you need, let me know. I said, well, wait a minute, I got a whole lot of people. I got 8 people. I got Father Boyle. I got Reverend Earl Neal. I got 4 sisters and 5 sisters in the party, 3 or 4 other brothers and some writers, etc. I got a brother here, he works for United Airlines, he writes for us. You got a United Airlines pilot. I said, yeah, he's a member of the Black Panther Party. My point is this, brothers. When they murdered Dr. King, it was eruption all across the country. You have to imagine, you weren't there, but I remember those riots was everywhere, all across the country. And it's in that period that I said, people called it up, we want to start a Black Panther Party, etc. And in some cases I said, where are you at, where are you located, whatever. I had a big man on the phone, he'd help me to do this stuff. And I said, okay, go to the college, your local college. Do not curse, do not argue, do not first. And ask the black students and the left radical students to invite Bobby Seale to speak at your college. And when I get there and we speak, then we'll set a day aside to see about starting your chapter or your branch. And it wasn't just one. When I leave town, I'd have like 1, 2, 3, sometimes 5 colleges to speak at in different places, like up down the East Coast, you know, over here, and then we go down to Maryland and so on and so on. That kind of stuff. But more importantly, guess who financed all this? Marlon Brando. This is when I get connected with Hollywood. And I mean really connected. So Brando Carr says, yes, he says, whatever you need, I get your people together, whoever you want to bring to Martin Luther King's funeral. Because all the actors are going to be there, et cetera, blah, blah, blah.
So Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando.
Financed
these movie actors,
Chapters.
no, we're not financing chapters.
Not the chapter, traveling, traveling.
But it's more than that, though. Let me show you how this developed into me getting money from Hollywood. I mean, the man did that, Marlon Brando did that. We got all ready, and I put all the names in, they put all the tickets, and boom, they got my crew riding first class, just regular, I didn't do this. My point is, so we're in Atlanta, Georgia. We get all settled in the hotel. This is a big, brand new swanky hotel. You know, and Brando says, when you get settled, call me, let me know when you get there, boom, boom. So everybody got settled, boom, 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 told them that, look, you got your tickets here, you can charge food, anything you want, it's all paid for by Marlon Brando. I got 3,000 or 4,000 he sent for pocket money if you need anything else. And then Brando says, come over, I called Brando, I said, we settled, man. He said, come on over to my suite. So I came over to his suite, knocked on the door, boom, 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 boom. And as I knocked on the door and come in and somebody opened the door, I didn't realize it was Tony Franciano, a movie actor. And I come in the door and I said, oh, I said, Marlon, remember, this is Bobby Seale, you guys, blah, 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 et cetera, blah, 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 blah. And so James Baldwin was there, and Tony Franciano and another one of those guys from the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra's Rat Pack, the whole Rat Pack supported Martin Luther King. And anyway, you have to understand how I had this money, and it happened, and how the Black Panther rose so rapid and so fast. And then he's introduced me to the people in his room, and I saw this African American sister, you know, and I says, and your name is, and Marlon Brando said, this is my girlfriend. And, wait a minute, it's African American, wait a minute. She said, Mr. Seale, I'm the former wife of Nat King Cole. Nat King Cole had been dead about 5 years. I said, oh, good to meet you, sister, et cetera. Now, Brando is one of these kind of guys, he liked him a lot of colored people. What's that other actor's name? I forget his name. De Niro. But that's great that human beings can cross the line. But my point is this here. I went over to, Brando took me over the next day to the big hotel where Sister Coretta King and the rest of the movie actors were. This is how I got in touch with movies. And when I got there, we got up the stairs, boom, 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 we were coming in. Brando was in front of me. Hey, Sidney, Harry, come here, boom, 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 boom. I walked over, he says, here, Bobby Seale, I got Bobby Seale here. Boom, I'm honored to be able to shake Sidney Porter's hand. I'm honored to shake Harry Belafonte's hand. Boom, etc. And boom, and Tony Franciano and another one there from the Rat Pack, I forget who they was. And he said, the other people, and Sammy Davis Jr. is in that room there. And I go in there, and Sammy Davis Jr., Eartha Kitt. I'm introduced to Hollywood. So, when I started the breakfast program and it got popular, and then what's your name, was said, the breakfast program is a threat to the internal security of America, blah, blah, blah. People scratch their heads, where is that?
So the breakfast program was help funded by Hollywood?
No. You won't let me finish. I started a free breakfast for children program because somebody showed me a picture. It was down south of a swollen belly of some children. And I says, wow. I says, how many children in our ghetto people, you know, don't have breakfast, and if they don't have breakfast, they should have breakfast, blah, 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 blah. And I just said, we're gonna have a free breakfast for children program connected to our voter registration drive. If we have a program and we ask the brothers brothers and sisters to support us, they know we're doing it. And then I said, we're gonna have free clinic, we have a free sickle cell anemia testing program. And we had that, and then that rolled over into the free preventive medical health clinic. So Dr. Carlton Good, African-American brother, who was popular with the Sun Reporter newspaper in San Francisco, and he's always about civil rights, human rights, etc. And this is how it came about that Dr. Carlton Good, a medical doctor who is the personal doctor of our lawyer, Charles Gary, who is Armenian, you see, and then I was telling them, you know, that thing, I got a problem of people doing dumb stuff in the Black Panther Party. Somebody robbed Bill Brent, somebody robbed a service station attendant. In other words, the Black Panther Party newspaper came off the roller press every Wednesday night, and they have to take the layouts to the printers. They immediately burn the layouts on the big plates they put on the roll press. The roll press is as long as this room. You know, that's how they can roll out 1,000 issues of any press, you know, on a daily basis with these big giant roll press. And that's that part, I organized all those chapters across the country. I would go to the chapters, and in other cases, we would have those people, we'd set them up for a date and a time and a week to raise themselves some money and come to Oakland, California. You'll be here at least a week. And they get a total orientation of what to do, how to run, and then begin to understand the political structure in the cities, in the places, in the towns where you live. Because you're not gonna have any black power or people's power until you get more politicians. In other words, new guards for our future security and happiness. The new guards is new politicians. Black, and then we was all talking black power, and the next thing I know, the Asian brothers wanted to start one, Puerto Rican brothers wanted to start one. I said, that's right. This is more than just the black community. It's all people's color community, and even poor white people is going to benefit from the concepts we want. So it's going to be all power to all the people in opposition to the avaricious corporate money rich who control. You see, that's what that was about.
Commented on several occasions about the FBI's counterintelligence program. Why do you believe the FBI targeted the Black Panther organization?
John Mitchell was the United States Attorney General, okay? John Mitchell, well, wait a minute, let's go with J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover, right after Nixon was elected, not sworn in yet, but elected, we found out later that he had a meeting with J. Edgar Hoover. Nixon had a meeting with J. Edgar Hoover. So, J. Edgar Hoover, turning the 1st of December, jumps up on the national meeting. The Black Panthers are a threat to the internal security of America. The Black Panthers Breakfast for Children program is a threat to the internal security of America. Well, the average white liberal had to scratch his head and say, wow, it's some grammar school kids threat to the internal security of America. Well, I'm already in with Hollywood. Brando says, look, all these people want to donate to you. What do I say? Tell them to send it to St. Augustine's Church, because I already had a setup with St. Augustine's Church to receive funds on a nonprofit basis. And then the board had agreed to support all our programs. So I had our lawyers draw up all of that stuff, okay? And boom. And then they said, man, I just from the Hollywood scene, $70,000, $80,000 came in to the church. Reverend Earl Neal would say, here. I said, well, don't you guys want to take 5%? No. This is your program. And see, what Charles Gary did for me is they legally laid out all the faculty programs, everything from the party newspaper, the Black Panthers housing, et cetera, and so on, et cetera. Boom, boom, boom. So those checks come in, and they would process them through the bank and give me that money. I mean, there was $60,000, $80,000 in that period. And then the Stern Fund, these are young Jewish white females in New York, called up and wanted to know, how do we donate money to you? I said, St. Augustine's Church. You know, and I had somebody, a lot of the white kids, they were Jewish. I loved them, you know what I mean? Right on time. My point is, bang, and they started giving money, but they said, did you do the church send me $100,000? $100,000. That was in '68. She sent another one a year later, $100,000. I raised, from the time Martin Luther King was killed, with Brando, Hollywood, and everything, and other people, etc., over $1 million. While in jail, I did the book, Seize the Time. I'm talking in a tape recorder. This is not a refined, written book. In other words, if your behavior is decent, etc., boom, 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 you can go and research your case, etc., you know, when you had free time to do this. Well, Eldridge Cleveland was always doing that, and Eldridge Cleveland was a writer. I mean, we had to find out later how and why was he a writer. Eldridge Cleveland lived in Los Angeles growing up, and when he was 14, 15, his two older sisters was 14 and 16 years older than him. They were school teachers. And they got in his case about his schoolwork, even though I'm just telling you, and that's what made him to be a writer. Before he got to prison, you see what I mean? And then, you see how things happen? Now he's in prison for raping some white women. That's what he did. He admitted he'd done it, etc. But the little reason he gave, I didn't like it. Well, I was getting even with the white men raping black men. I said, man, I don't want to get that crap.
Right. So
I said, Eldridge, anyway, Eldridge was cool.
Yeah.
But he wrote Ultra Feminine Doll, and etc. in his book. And he had to hell of an essay. And he got very popular. And they was comparing Eldridge's writings as a writer with James Baldwin at the time. I mean, he became our Minister of Information. You know, I remember when I took the armed delegation to the California State Legislature, I only had 29 members. That's all I had. Only 29 members. An office, an operation, boom, 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 a paycheck from the city government of Oakland, and in between there, I made Huey. I said, no, you're gonna get in there, and you're gonna make a statement to the cops. I don't like you sitting up trying to debate with them with a shotgun. That's bullshit. I says, because if we get arrested, I'm standing here. In other words, I set that up. Boom, 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 boom. And Huey finally did that. He got someone to help him write it up, the law. So when we got out there that night, got in the red light district of West Oakland, and Slim Jenkins was a nightclub, and then there's other businesses and a little convenience store, etc. We got out of the cars, and I done trained everybody about the guns. Now I'm proficient with guns. People wrote stuff talking about Huey taught me about everything about guns. I was proficient with guns. My father bought me my 30-30 Winchester high-powered rifle to hunt at age 12.
Okay, all right, okay.
Huey Newton is 6 years younger than, 7 years younger than me. I didn't even know he existed at age 12. You know, my point is, we went to every hunting season. Shotguns, rifles, high-powered rifle, 30-30 Winchester with a hollow tip ammo. You can knock an elephant down with that. But my point is, I was raised a hunter, a fisherman, a carpenter, a builder, etc. Structural repairman, high-performance aircraft, blah, 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 blah. You don't come to me talking about doing something or protesting something without organizing and getting the people going.
You know what, I'm gonna stop you right there. You've come to the end of our program, but I want you, before the audience has an opportunity to ask you questions,
Yes.
what message of hope would you like to share with the audience today?
I hope that we evolve to get all the progressive programs, very progressive programs, that mostly the Democrats are behind and other people are behind. I hope that we really get to the point where we can make sure that we save our own earth ecologically, etc. This is very important. All these billions of people here in the United States of America and around the world, it is a necessary problem that if we don't get control, we cannot let avaricious corporate money rich screw over us. Now, I like Bill Gates because they will put up and boom, but what they're waiting for is to get control. You gotta get rid of the dark money. Murdoch, etc., and 20th Century Fox, these are dark money people. Oh yeah, they will, but behind the scenes, put dark money out to cause disruption, etc. We have to understand that, and we got to evolve. We got to evolve to a point where the constitutional